I have no doubt in my mind that the map's going to pass. If y'all can give us less than 0 seats, you would do it. Y'all do this under the orders of somebody that said the Civil Rights Act was harmful to white people, that it caused reverse racism. RFK said that black children are overfilled on antidepressants and that they need to be reparented on different farms, all of them. Pete Hegseth constantly brings Doug Wilson to the Pentagon to give a prayer service. Doug Wilson is the same pastor that said that slave owners were on strong spiritual ground. I don't have no belief in no morality on anybody that followed Donald Trump. If you wasn't with this map, you wouldn't be underneath this president. You wouldn't be in your party. You would stand up, you would stand against it, you would speak out about it. So as far as I'm concerned, if you here as one of these Trump Republicans, you already showed us who you are. You showed us what you want to do. And I believe the country as a whole is rebuking your party. Y'all are in a death spiral. That's why y'all have to redistrict. That's why y'all have to cheat. That's why Trump got to go to Texas and say he entitled to 5 more seats. It's because y'all know what y'all doing is abhorrent. We letting our people die in Iran based on false pretense that Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent said ain't real. Y'all okay with all that. So I'm positive y'all gonna be okay with the maps. But the beautiful thing is, the children that y'all have made and the people that's younger than y'all don't support none of this racism that y'all want. The MAGA party is the last breath of the Confederacy. And I'll be happy to see millennials and Gen Z bury y'all. There will be no more of your party. The midterms gonna come, y'all gonna get wiped out. Trump gonna get dragged out of the White House, and I'ma love every second of it. Because y'all loved every second of the suffering that he caused to everybody in this country. And worldwide, we starve in Cuba. We bomb Nigeria. We holding Zimbabwe and Zambia hostage for their minerals. We don't want to give them aid support. The pro-lifers that say all life is special, y'all letting kids die of AIDS. What part of your Bible say that? Point out the scripture. I think everybody would love to see it. And we would love to see y'all in the midterms.
So once again, the Republicans are triggered by President Obama. He could breathe and they'd be angry. And this time they're upset because he met with Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada. That's it. Carney said on social media, "Welcome back to Canada, President Obama. Thanks for joining us in Toronto for important conversations on how we build a better future." Normal stuff, right? But for MAGA, they think that something deeper is going on. For example, Laura Loomer said, "Why is Obama meeting with world leaders while Trump is in office? This is a coup." She thinks that Obama meeting with Carney is an attempt to overthrow the United States government. Another popular MAGA account on Twitter said, "He's a former president. This violates the Logan Act." No, it does not. Honestly, I don't know what the F he thinks he's doing. The balls the Democrats have, unbelievable. I actually responded to that tweet by saying, "This you," referencing her back in 2024, celebrating Donald Trump meeting with Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago. The MAGA Republicans hate Obama because he's better than Donald Trump in every single way, and people actually like him. He's one of the most popular politicians in America, despite leaving the presidency years ago. People still love him.
Someone who was raised MAGA, here are the 3 things that made me realize it's a cult so I could get the fuck out. Number 1, the fact that a lot of MAGA members would literally give up their religion if it meant following Trump. A lot of them fully believe that Trump is a savior and that he is like Jesus Christ. And while this is on the extreme end, a lot of them would do whatever he asked of them, and that is shown by how much he gets in donations from these people who don't have a lot to give. Number 2, the way that MAGA discourages free thinking and questions, generally speaking. If you do have a question and you ask anyone in MAGA, they will repeat the same bogus bullshit that is a tagline every single time. For instance, one time I asked what would happen to the immigrants of 20 or 30 years in America who have communities and families here. Would they be deported? And they simply said, anyone who is here illegally has to go. It is such a rehearsed tagline that they don't even actually consider what that would mean in their lives. And number 3, the insane merch and the way that they construct their identity around being part of this cult. It's their social life, it's their religion, it's everything, it's their way of life, it is who they are, which is way more than a politician should ever be in your life, like, ever.
I thought it would be easier talking about leaving MAGA as a 3-time Trump voter than it is, but some of y'all are really mean. And I get this was me this time last year, but that doesn't matter. Because again, my feelings matter. Yours never mattered. The level of hate I'm getting is unreal. People telling me to have accountability, to put the work into my community instead of coming on the internet and crying for myself. Like, you just don't get it. So much for the tolerant left. You guys are exactly how the right describes you. Like, how do you not get that this shit is hard?
People do not owe you forgiveness for finally leaving MAGA. They just don't. And I know that that's not a popular sentiment with people, but I completely stand by that. I was scrolling and came across a video of somebody that was in tears because they were talking about how they've been deconstructing and they finally left MAGA, but they don't ever want to be a part of any political party ever again because of the backlash they received. And the backlash, mind you, being people going, I'm sorry, but it's too late. You've caused so much damage. Like, I can never forgive you, which I think is completely fair, and it shouldn't be expected to get an overwhelmingly positive response given the situation we're currently in. I can understand the fact that people are saying, oh, we should welcome them with open arms. I completely get that, but when you for 10 years have been telling people to look around and observe the things that are right in front of their face, especially when the things are racism, misogyny, transphobia, hatred, homophobia, and they can't see it, after 10 years, you're gonna be like, okay, well, too little too late. Like, I've been screaming it at your face and now people are dying. I'm sorry, but anyone that is a triple voter of that man is partially responsible for that. If your response to people rightfully criticizing you as someone that recently left MAGA is to now threaten to continually not vote in the way that is going to stop this stuff from happening, then you weren't deserving of forgiveness in the first place. Because clearly you still don't get it. I'm glad that there are people that are willing to forgive and move forward and, welcome these people with open arms. But it should not be the expectation that everyone is going to want to do that or be okay with it. Especially with how many people have been killed, deported, imprisoned, and everything that we're seeing in our current climate. Forgiveness should not be the expectation. And if you are someone that left MAGA, we're very happy that you did that. And I hope you continue to deconstruct and teach the people around you. You also have to accept the criticism and the fact that you have harmed hundreds of thousands of millions of people. And people are going to hold you accountable for that. Does that suck? Yes, but that's part of the deconstructing.
Watch this MAGA fan get kicked out of a St. Louis City soccer game last night for wearing a Trump hat on the premises, and he has a total meltdown on camera. Just take a look.
So I'm Michael Weitzel. I'm being asked to leave by the police because of Donald Trump.
Hey, I'm a Donald Trump.
You're a Trump fan?
I'm a MAGA. Yes, I am.
So I just want
all these cops you got to deal with the MAGA, but they're not political. They don't want any kind of political.
So those flags over there.
Those are pre-approved.
Those flags over there. Those aren't political. So my question to you guys is: are these rules equally enforced on everybody?
Here's my question to you.
And the only way I can do that is if I enforce it with you. Handcuffs. So I'm being threatened with arrest. Why am I breaking? What am I? We ask you to leave and you stay. They're asking me to leave. Am I being evicted from the premises?
You're going to be evicted from the premises. You want to take a big...
We're going to walk up. I'm being evicted from the premises because of Donald Trump. Because we can't wear Donald Trump hats in public. And so now I'm being evicted from the premises.
Yeah, this is a grown-ass man having a temper tantrum like that. The MLS has a rule that no political signs can be shown at any game, whether it's a liberal hat, a Republican hat. You can't wear it on the premises. If you do, you'll be asked to leave. And the flags that he was pointing at are not political signs. They had the team's logo on it. It's like, buddy, you're not a victim. This is a private premises. They can ask you to leave if you're wearing a hat and they have this rule. I just can't imagine being a grown man like this guy and having this temper tantrum in public and thinking that you came out of it looking good.
I thought it would be easier the more I talked about leaving MAGA, being a 3-time Trump voter. But I have to be completely honest with you that it's not getting easier, and it actually feels like it's getting more difficult because I'm gaining more empathy. And I don't think people really realize how counterintuitive the hate that I receive when you can take one look at my page and see that I am doing the work. I I read a comment this morning that I'm not stitching because I don't want hate to come our way, but you'll understand why I'm reading it. I've been deconstructing from Christianity and left MAGA. I do not speak about it because the hate you receive from the left is no different from the hate you received when you were in the cult. I'm just minding my own business and rewiring my whole belief system. What people don't understand is how hard it is to actually wake up and realize your entire life has been a lie, and now you have to start over from scratch. I'm not going to allow any negativity from anyone into my life. It's hard enough to do this. I can't see. I had to stop and gather myself. Not only that, I'm not going to be a part of any political party or religion ever again, so the expectation of the left thinking we have to vote blue now in order to make amends or something is not something I want to be a part of. The amount of "I'll never forgive you" I see in your last video is enough for me to never try to speak up on anything that's happened to get me here. My entire family is deep Southern conservative Christian Republicans. It's been buried into my whole system since birth. Seeing my truth and removing myself from it has been the hardest thing I've ever done. I don't really know what else to say other than, I don't think that this is what the left wants. You've been shouting for people to wake up for years, and people do. And you just want to harp on, and I get it, that it didn't happen soon enough. And I don't believe that. I can't believe that. I have too much hope in my soul to roll over and die. I don't know what the solution is, but I know it's not to beat people while they're already down.
This is the first time in my life farming that I still have crop in my bins that I can't sell. Basically what we're getting out, a bushel of corn or a bushel of rice, would be like you making $5 an hour and trying to pay your bills at home. Mexico and China are the two biggest rice buyers for the United. They buy more rice off of us than anyone, and when they stop buying rice, we have nowhere to go with the rice. It won't be a trickle-down effect. It will be like flushing a toilet if the ag industry collapses. Totally 100% dependent upon the Lord Jesus Christ. I surrender it to Him.
Why? I thought you said, Donald, that opening the strait wasn't all that important. We could declare victory without reopening the strait. We don't get oil from there anyway. We don't need it. It's NATO's problem. And so why don't we revisit? Because this guy's all over the friggin' place. The strait's important. It's not important. We already won the war. We're still going to bomb them into smithereens and make them surrender. What is it? And so I came across someone who compiled a list of Donald Trump's statements, just some of the statements on the war in sort of a timeline, just to get a sense of the schizophrenic nature of Donald Trump as he has approached this war. So let's go through some of these. On March 3rd, he declared, "We won the war." On March 7th, he said, "We defeated Iran." March 9th, "We must attack Iran." Again, March 9th, "The war is ending almost completely and very beautifully." March 11, "You never like to say too early you won. We won. In the first hour, it was over." March 12th, "We did win, but we haven't won completely yet." March 13th, "We won the war." March 14th, "Please help us." March 15th, "If you don't help us, I will certainly remember it." March 16th, this is when he's begging NATO, to help. March 16th, "Actually, we don't need any help at all." March 16th, "I was just testing to see who's listening to me." Again on the 16th, "If NATO doesn't help, they will suffer something very bad." The 17th, "We neither need nor want NATO's help." Again on the 17th, "I don't need congressional approval to withdraw from NATO." March 18th, "Our allies must cooperate in reopening the Strait of Hormuz." 19th, "U.S. allies need to get a grip, step up and help open the Strait of Hormuz." 20th, NATO are cowards. 21st, the Strait of Hormuz must be protected by the countries that use it. We don't use it. We don't need to open it. March 22nd, this is the last time. I will give Iran 48 hours. Open the strait. The 22nd, Iran is dead. The 23rd, we had very good and productive talks with Iran. March 24th, we're making progress. By the way, every time they say that they're having conversations with Iran, Iran comes out and says, we're not having conversations. You're lying. The 24th, we're making progress. The 25th, they gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. I'm not going to tell you what the present is, but it was very significant. It was a very significant prize. Of course, Iran came out and said, we didn't give you anything, you lying buffoon. You know, in so many words, they said that. They said that was a lie. The 26th, make a deal or we'll just keep blowing them away. March 27th, we don't have to be there for NATO. March 28th. No, he didn't say anything on the 28th. 29th, he claimed talks were progressing. March 30th, quote, open the Strait of Hormuz immediately or face devastating consequences. 31st, he claimed a deal was very close and that Iran would, quote, do the right thing. April 1st, we'll see what happens very soon. April 2nd, once again, he repeated the deal was likely while warning of continued strikes if there is no deal. April 3rd, something big is going to happen. April 4th, Iran must immediately open the strait or face further consequences. April 5th.
Your department is out of control. You are spending like you don't have a budget. You're on the verge of running out of money for the fiscal year. You are illegally refusing to spend funds that have been authorized by this Congress and appropriated by this committee. You are ignoring the immigration laws of this nation, implementing a brand new immigration system that you have invented that has little relation to the statutes that you are required, that you are commanded to follow, as spelled out in your oath of office. You are routinely violating the rights of immigrants who may not be citizens, but whether you like it or not, they have constitutional and statutory rights when they reside in the United States. Your agency acts as if laws don't matter, as if the election gave you some mandate to violate the Constitution and the laws passed by this Congress. It did not give you that mandate. You act as if your disagreement with the law, or even the public's disagreement with the law, is relevant and gives you the ability to create your own law. It does not give you that ability. Let's start with your spending. You are on track to trigger the Anti-Deficiency Act. That means you are going to spend more money than you have been allocated by Congress. This is a rare occurrence, and it is wildly illegal. Your agency will be broke by July, over 2 months before the end of the fiscal year. You may not think that Congress has provided enough money to ICE, but the Constitution and the federal law does not allow you to spend more money than you have been given or to invent money. And this obsession with spending at the border, as the chairwoman mentioned, has left the country unprotected elsewhere. The security threats to the United States are higher, not lower, than when Trump came to office. To fund the border, you have illegally gutted spending for cybersecurity. As we speak, Russian and Chinese hackers are having a field day attacking our nation. You've withdrawn funds for disaster prevention. Storms are going to kill more people in this country because of your illegal withholding of these funds. Your myopia about the border, fueled by President Trump's prejudice against people who speak a different language, has shattered many of this country's most important defenses. Now let's talk about the impoundments. When Congress appropriates funds for a specific purpose, the administration has no discretion as to whether to spend or not spend that money unless you go through a very specific process with this committee. Let me give you two of many instances of this illegal impoundment. The first is a shelter and services program. Senator Britt may want to zero that account out, but that account is funded, and it was funded in a bipartisan way. You don't like the program. Your policy is to treat migrants badly. I think that's abhorrent, but it doesn't matter that you don't like the program. You cannot cancel spending in this program, and you cannot use the funds as you have to fund other things like ICE. You have also canceled citizenship and integration grants, which help lawful permanent residents become citizens, helping them take the citizenship test. I know your goal is to try to make life as hard as possible for immigrants. But that goal is not broadly shared by the American public. That's why Congress, in a bipartisan way, for decades, has funded this program to help immigrants in this country become citizens. Now let's talk about why encounters at the southern border are down so much. This is clearly going to be your primary talking point today. You will tell us that it represents a success. But the primary reason why encounters are down is because you are brazenly violating the law every hour of every day. You are refusing to allow people showing up at the southern border to apply for asylum. I acknowledge that you don't believe that people should be able to apply for asylum, but you don't get to choose that. The White House doesn't get to choose that. The law requires you to process people who are showing up at the border and who claim asylum. Why? Because our asylum law is a bipartisan commitment, an effort to correct for our nation's unconscionable decision to deny entry to Jews to this country who are being hunted and killed by the Nazis. Our nation, Republicans and Democrats, decided, wrote it into law, that we would not repeat that horror ever again, and thus we would allow for people who were fleeing terror and torture to come here, arrive at the border, and make a case for asylum. Finally, let's talk about these disappearances. In an autocratic society, people who the regime does not like are people who are protesting the regime. They are just often picked up off the street, spirited away, sometimes to open-ended detention, sometimes they're never seen again. What you are doing, both the individuals who have legal rights to stay here, like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, or students who are just protesting Trump's policies, is immoral. And to follow the theme, it is illegal. You have no right to deport a student visa holder with no due process simply because they have spoken in a way that offends the president. You can't remove migrants who a court has given humanitarian protection from removal. Now, reports suggest that you are planning to remove immigrants with no due process and send them to prisons in Libya. Libya is in the middle of a civil war. It is subject to a level 4 travel advisory, meaning we tell American citizens never to travel to Libya. We don't have an embassy there because it is not safe for our diplomats. Sending migrants with pending asylum claims into a war zone just because it's cruel is so deeply disturbing.
What really stayed with me was the amount of strength and resilience Black Americans had to carry through generations of pain and injustice. I kept thinking about how people endure slavery, segregation, discrimination, and still found ways to build families, communities, culture, and hope. I honestly felt emotional because it's impossible not to respect the courage it took for ordinary people to keep fighting in a system that was built to hold them back. Another thing I couldn't ignore was how many freedom people enjoy today came from sacrifice. Real people put everything on the line just to demand equality, basic human dignity. That really hit me deeply, honestly. I felt reminded that change never happens because people stay quiet. It happens when people stand together, stay determined, and refuse to accept injustice no matter what, or how difficult things become. Furthermore, what stood out to me was the importance of being honest about history instead of pretending certain struggles never happened. I feel like understanding the past helps people better understand the issues still being faced today. At the same time, I appreciated being reminded of the incredible impact Black Americans have had through music, education, activism, politics, leadership, culture. Their influence is woven into so much society, and that deserves real recognition and respect. Overall, I walk away feeling more thoughtful, more aware, and honestly, more appreciative of the sacrifices that shape so much of the world people live in today. Thank you all so much for watching and spending this time with me. It really means so much for me and the Black community out there. I would really love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss any of these important contents. See you in the next video. Thank you.